Unfortunately, I really enjoy over-engineering what should be very simple projects. For example, I joined my first 3D modeling competition a couple weeks ago, but I only had a couple days to develop the entry before I need to go on travel. And instead of making something like a cute puzzle, I designed this scuffed kinetic thingamabobber with modular attachments, motors, lube, I mean, the works. And it didn't even make the leaderboard. I mean, I've been making projects for nearly a decade now, but I just never thought they were good enough to post, so I figured joining competitions is a good way to break that mental gap and just dive into it. So instead of giving up, I found whatever the next available competition was, which just happened to be for Corsair. They're challenging the community to develop modules to attach to their components like their CPU cooler. And this time, I'm gonna learn from my mistakes. I'm just gonna make a nice, simple logo with some cool patterns and oh my gosh, what happened? I really was planning on making something simple, but I saw a spare fan header on my motherboard and it piqued my interest. Because using the power from that header, I'm betting we can build some sort of motorized mini marble machine. You know, something subtle. I started off by making some crappy sketches to get a sense of the space we're working with, and it's really not that much. I was thinking about making a classic spiral and elevator setup, but I think a better showcase for 3D printing would be some sort of staircase design that can be printed in a single piece. It would allow us to more easily put in different obstacles and see the marble all the way down the track. Now to get the ball back to the top, I'm thinking of using a set of geared wheels on the right that act as a sort of series of water wheels to lift up marbles higher and higher as they rotate. And with being an AIO liquid cooler, moving fluids to carry heat away from your CPU, I thought the design was fitting. So with a plan down, I hopped into CAD and actually started getting this thing fleshed out. We'll be using a model Corsair provided as the base of the project since I don't actually own the cooler myself. I first extruded out all these varying levels with different slopes, switchbacks, and stairs before tilting the whole design backwards a few degrees so that the marbles couldn't just jump straight to the bottom. You see, the primary objective here is to manage the speed of the marbles and provide a general flow for their run while still making each journey feel unique and interesting. And when I was ready for the first test, I sent it over to my printer and yeah, we have some stuff to improve. The balls are too fast, there's no general flow to the runs, the wheel tolerances are loose and hard to assemble, and more than anything, it looks super boring. So began the process of iterating and refining everything. I widened the pathways and added geometry to steer the marbles a bit better. I adjusted the wheel tolerances and added visual marks to make aligning them easier during assembly. I made the slopes less aggressive to control the speed, and most importantly, I gave the whole thing a theme, expanding on the concept of the water wheels with textures for clouds, bricks, fences, a bird, and whatever the heck type of plant this is. Look, I never said I was good at graphic design. All I was aiming for here is to make it interesting and colorful, but that's a bit of an issue because I also realized how dark the machine was going to be on the inside, so I added a hole in the back and some clips on the top for LED lights. It's that iterative grind of isolating problems and finding solutions that makes this hobby so infuriating at times, but also so rewarding and enjoyable. And sure, it can take some serious time, but it grows you as an individual, making other problems seem not so bad to overcome. Anyway, let's get back to the lighting issue. I found these 3-volt warm white LEDs, which will fit perfectly, but they're a bit too bright and directional for the size of our project. So to fit with the theme and diffuse the light a bit, I made these press-fit lantern housings that add a really cool effect to the scene. Since we're powering our system off a 12-volt header, I put 3 of them in series with a 330 ohm resistor to stay well within the margin of Ohm's law and keep our lights bright without burning out. And if you want a simple LED wiring guide, I'll link a video in the description. Speaking of wiring, I made this chamber in the back for the cheapest DC motors I could find on Amazon in a 2-pack in case I needed to make another one. I was gonna secure it with some screws, but I don't have any hardware that's small and long, so I simply made these plastic press-fit clips that hold on to these tiny bars like Lego hands. I then scavenged an old broken fan for a cable with a proper size header, making sure the 12-volt header on my motherboard matched up to the 12-volt connection I was about to make with the motor and LED assembly. Did the same for the ground connection and soldered everything up. I then printed out this rear collar piece that helps our machine interface with the cooler attachment while allowing the gears on the back to spin freely. It also creates some space for our wiring and a cutout at the bottom to pass the header cable through. I even designed a frame for the front that encloses some millimeter thick acrylic so you can see everything inside without having to worry about marbles potentially popping out into your PC. You just need to measure it, score it, snap it, screw it, bop it. Wait a second. And for any of this multicolor stuff, you can always just print it in a single color and then paint it afterwards, but dang, it's clean. I put the panel on before giving it a proper test, which is a rookie PC building move, and for that, I found out that the marbles are still having a bit of difficulty moving from one wheel to the other. And after yet some more iteration, I found that making the back of each hole wider than the front can account for any offsets due to the backlash in the 3D printed gears. And by lifting the inner edge of each wheel, the bowl will always be rolling downward into the next hole, which is exactly what we want. And to add reliability on top of that, I made the sides of each consecutive wheel's holes a little bit bigger, making sure there's no issues with the pass off. And gosh dang, when this thing is powered up, it looks so much more cool and aesthetic than I thought it was going to. And if you hate the idea of motorizing it, stick around because I made something just for you. But first, it's time to see if my PC likes it or gets fried. Oh, heck yeah. The marbles all follow a general flow, but still have some fun variation, and they're tons of fun to watch. Unfortunately though, there is a literal blaring issue, and that is noise. If you need it to be much quieter, I would recommend getting a higher RPM version of the motor and then stepping down the voltage with a DC to DC buck converter like this one. And because we're not dealing with a high torque application, you should just be able to dial in the speed by varying the input voltage and then balance that with its sound profile. Or just pick another motor entirely and change that back chamber to fit your needs. I'm also adding a small electrolytic capacitor here for good practice to reduce any EMI, and you could also add a small ceramic capacitor, but honestly, neither should be strictly necessary for the application. But if there's anyone not wanting to deal with motors at all, I made you this mechanical version as well. You just need to print out the adjusted collar piece and driver wheel to be able to freely spin the gears by hand. Or you can mount it onto an actual water wheel or one of those hamster wheels or really anything that spins. I don't know. I'm just spitballing here. I did make sure to leave in a little hole in the back, should you still want to toss something like a 9-volt battery on the back and make use of some LEDs. Or you could just completely chop off the roof and get light in that way. So yeah, maybe I should have just made some cool, simple patterns, but for the charm and character that this has, I love it. I posted the files on printables if you want to give it a try, and all the parts I used in it are there as well. Now, if this is too involved and complex, I also did take an afternoon to quickly make a simple version like I initially planned to do in the beginning. It's inspired by dragon scales, can be printed without any supports, and lets the RGB from the cooler shine through. I'll also post it up on printables if you want to make that instead. I'd really appreciate it if you liked and subscribed and stuck around, because there's some fun projects coming up that you might want to get involved in. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm probably going to go over-engineer another problem.